Hey, welcome to Lab, the podcast. Honored to share some time with Jeff Harmon, co founder and chief content officer of Angel Studios, the distribution studio behind crowd-funded shows like Dry Bar Comedy and recent box office hits like His Only Son, After Death, and Sound of Freedom. Jeff has played a key role in creating Angel Studios' groundbreaking pay it forward ticket model, which enables moviegoers to produce or purchase tickets so that others can see the film for free. That model and the quality of film that was made for Sound of Freedom helped that become a top grossing movie in the US during its July 4th release. Well, Jeff, congratulations on the success for Angel Studios overall, but especially on Cabrini. It's a beautiful film.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
And yeah, well, I thank you for the time. This is kind of cool because we've had a conversation with Alejandro Monteverde before Sound of Freedom, and we've talked to other people from different aspects of the art being created. You have a unique chair, being not only a co-founder of Angel Studios, but also working as the chief content officer. And you get to be a little bit of the selection process as a film. So as you're on the threshold of the release from your particular chair, what are you excited about? What is the thing that you look for from your seat at Angel Studios when you're about to release a film like Cabrini?
It's a great question. To understand that, you have to get into the selection process that we go through. So Angel Studios is different than any other studio. The word Angel Studios, if you go back to the founding of Broadway, and people who invested in Broadway plays were called angel investors. That's where that term comes from. So we named the company after the people, the crowd investors and the crowd who helps decide and fund projects inside of Angel Studios. And so as the chief content officer, one of my first things to set out is to not make the decisions myself only, but make a system for picking good movies. In the Hollywood system, 80% of movies fail. They're commercially unsuccessful. 80% of movies, and that's because there's this broken model we call it the gatekeeper model, which is where you have a handful of executives that live in a bubble in LA making all the decisions for these multi-$100 million movies, and they're green lighting and they're pushing them out. What we do is we have what we call the Angel Guild. And this guild is a group of 250,000 people, 250,000, not a dozen people, not a half dozen people, but 250,000 people from 155 countries that go through and they review content. Like if you're a part of the Angel Guild, you get to go and you get to vote on filmmakers that are submitting to the guild. And we have 21 projects on average per week being submitted to the Angel Guild. And then this group of 250,000 people, and it's growing very fast. It's grown 50% in the last few months. The Angel Guild, you as an Angel Guild member, you get to decide what content can actually get through and be on Angel Studios. I can't even look at the content and make a decision about it until the Angel Guild has cast a vote. Now, all the movies follow the same rules. And they all come into the Angel Guild, and a very, very small percentage of them pass at a level to be able to go to theaters. It's less than 1% make it through that process. And so Cabrini came in. Sound of Freedom first came in. Then Alejandro suggested maybe we were pushing on him. He had some great places to take this movie to, and he said, I want to bring this to Angel Studios. And Alejandro and the producers, and he said, and they took it into the Angel Guild, and it scored equal to the highest score we've ever seen in the Angel Guild. Cabrini. That's how good this movie is, and it's not like we know because we have 250,000 people from 155 countries. We have a very good idea of where our Rotten Tomatoes scores are going to sit with audiences. We don't know what the critics are going to do. The critics do whatever they want. In this case, not only are the audiences going to love this movie, like I can confidently predict this movie is going to be very loved by audiences. High 90s, most likely. I mean, we expect this movie to be very loved by audiences. but it's also right now. Let me see. This morning, because there's new Rotten Tomatoes reviews from critics coming in every single. They're just coming in constantly right now. But if I go to Rotten Tomatoes, it looks like it's a 96% right now from critics. I mean, we even got our first positive review from the Hollywood Reporter, so that was good. So,
Congrats on that.
but that's the power and the wisdom of the Angel Guild, is that we submit every movie. There's movies I really want maybe to go through, and they sometimes don't make it. Like it has to pass. That's the rule for Angel Studios, is I don't get to override the Angel Guild. Now, there may be some movies that come and actually pass the Angel Guild that we pass on eventually, whether it's not the right kind of partnership, they can't get to like the right terms, or potentially maybe their culture doesn't fit, with ours, because kind of like if you're working on a project together. But every single movie, including Cabrini, has to go through the Angel Guild. So like if you're a member of the Angel Guild, you got to see Sound of Freedom before it came to theaters. And not everybody sees it. It'll be a first couple thousand people that get on and watch it. They're the ones that vote, and then we get a statistical significance, and then we make a decision. But you would have seen Cabrini before it goes to theaters. You would have seen After Death before it goes to theaters. You had a chance to see all these different movies as a member of the Angel Guild and vote on them and decide what the future of culture looks like. And that's how we make decisions on movies at Angel Studios.
Yeah. It's so great that you're willing to jump on and dialogue like this, because even that, right? The name of Angel Studios, the thought behind it, but the disruptive kind of approach to saying, hey, this is how Hollywood has made films, and the gatekeeper model that's and sometimes we wonder, like, how does that get made, right? And it scores really high with critics, but nobody liked it.
That's
And
right.
then on the other side, all of us are going, I want to find a film I can watch and sink my teeth into, and there's just nothing.
Yeah, it feels like when you go to the movie theaters, especially at this time of year, usually it's like, did they make any of these movies for humans? Like,
yeah.
like,
So tell me
they're
this.
not made for real people. They're not made for real people. They're made for this group of like elitists that have these very eccentric concepts, and that's fine. That's great for art house theater, but the stuff that goes to the big box office, they should be good for general audiences.
Yeah. Okay. Before we talk about Cabrini, I have to pull in this thread, because this is one of those things that you just go, of course, like, brilliant idea. You're co-founder of Angel. Go back to the origin story. Was your background film? Was this an idea that you had and you said, I think we can do this a different way? And it was really as a disruptor to the how did you first say, we're going to do this, and this is why? Was it love of film, just keen insight into business and seeing something broken?
We're serial entrepreneurs, my brothers and I, and we're co-founders. And we grew up in the most unlikely, like, I think we're the most unlikely film executives in history. We grew up on potato farms in Idaho. The nearest neighbor is a quarter mile away. We had 3 TV stations, and you could get a 4th TV station if you put a wire hanger on the TV antenna and then hung it up. And I could count the number of movies I saw in the theater on one hand while I was a teenager. And my first movie ever in theaters was The Dollar Show, and I went to see Aladdin, and The Cave of Wonders kind of blew me away. Like this visual spectacle. That was the first time I'd ever seen a movie outside of this scratchy TV and VHSs.
Yeah.
And it was a magical experience. So I had these really great experiences growing up, but I never even realized that film was a profession. I never even thought about, where did these come from? Where did these movies come from? I thought, oh, my neighbors that are wealthy, because we grew up very, very poor, and they're doctors or they're lawyers. And so I thought, maybe I'll be like a lawyer. And then I had a roommate at school, at university, and he was a film major. And so he would go out all night and work for free on film sets and then study all day at school, and because he loved film. and I was trying to figure out how to market a product at the time. And I asked him if he could make a video for me, and we made a video together, and we built, eventually we built he helped direct a commercial called, for Aura Brush. It was an Aura Brush commercial, this little tongue cleaner. And we blew up on the internet that way and made a pretty decent sized company. Aura brushes still like at Walmart's and stuff. And then we built an ad agency. We did Poopery, Squatty Potty, Purple Mattress, Lumi deodorant. You know, if you've heard of these brands, like
Sure.
the Pooping Unicorn,
Yeah.
that built an agency, and just kind of slowly got more and more into the film space. Read Creativity Inc. about Pixar's history, learned that Pixar was actually an agency before they were a film, like a studio. And we thought, well, maybe we could do something like that. And then and then 10 years ago last year, we decided to embark on creating Angel Studios and make that jump from ad agency to the film world. But the way we did it was very unique. Neil, my brother, came to me, and he and Jordan were working on this concept where they would we all have kids, we have small kids, and they would take a movie that you bought or paid for and then stream it to where you could skip or mute, like an automatic remote control, scenes that are inappropriate for your family. And so that's where we actually started. And Neil, when he approached me, I said, I don't really want to do this. I don't want to do a filtering service, because companies have tried this back in the VHS days. They tried it in the DVD days, and now it's streaming. They've all been sued by Hollywood. They all got shut down. And Neil said, Jeff, wait a second. If we build this tool, and there's a law now that was passed since those other companies that explicitly makes this allowed. If we build this tool, we will assemble the moral compass of America on a streaming platform. And then we can launch content that they actually want to watch versus the content they want to skip or mute part of. We can launch content that is made specifically for our families. For us. And that resonated with me, and I said, okay, let's do it. And long story short, we started that filtering company. Then we got sued by Disney, Warner Brother, and 20th Century Fox. At the time we got sued, we were growing about twice as fast as Netflix at the same point we were at. And then we were trying to figure out, do we just shut down or do we push this thing further? And there was a new law that only 8 companies had used before then. Obama had signed this new law that allowed for equity crowdfunding, for basically angel investors to come in and they could buy a little piece of your company and fund a project that they believe in. And so we went to our customers and we said, it's going to cost millions of dollars to fight this lawsuit with Disney, at least $5 million. And if you want us to fight it, we'll fight it, but you got to fund us and we'll give you a piece of the company for it. And we ended up raising $10 million or $11 million in 5 days from 8,000 families across the world. It blew, like, I was very stunned by it at the moment. And another brother, there's 6 brothers in my family. We're a family of 9 kids, three girls, 6 boys. I'm the middle. And another brother who's a movie director called me and he said, Jeff, I think you just cracked the nut on how to fund big budget TV series and big budget movies. We can use this new law for crowdfunding. And it clicked. And I was like, oh, yeah, we can do this. And so we went ahead and started defending ourselves against the lawsuit in a more aggressive way. Then we got shut down by the LA courts. There's a court in LA that we learned later in the middle of the lawsuit, they call it the bank, because you can just go to this court and you can get money out of it. So we get shut down. So they shut off the service temporarily. And then so we're starting to bleed capital. And I know this feels like a tangent to where we're at with Sound of Freedom, but I'll get here. And so we're shut down, and we decide to launch Dry Bar Comedy. Dry Bar Comedy is a whole bunch of stand-up comedians. We have over 600 stand-up comedians now, where they go and they do clean sets. These are very funny comedians that come in, and when they do it for Dry Bar, they take out the swearing, they take out the innuendos, and they do a clean set. And so we filmed hundreds of comedians there, and it's gotten close to 5 billion views. And that we invested in, and that was actually really scary. We had to invest in 3 seasons and millions of dollars before that actually started cash flowing. And so we're running out of money. Disney's kicking our butt in the court system. And I'm trying to find, what's the next project? When are we going to do a project that is a drama and that we can crowdfund, and a higher budget one? And then in September 17th, 2018, September 17th, August 17th. Anyway, date doesn't matter. I could pull it up, but I get an email from Matthew Ferracci, a friend of mine who's an Orthodox Jew, and he helps us with press. And he has this email, and in it, he has this title that just says short film. And it was a Vimeo link. And I open it up and I watch it. And what I ended up watching, what is now the pilot episode of The Chosen, the mega hit Chosen series from Angel Studios, but I watched this little short film that Dallas had made on a farm in Illinois that his church had paid for. And as I was watching it, it was like this just flood of information came over me. And I knew how to take all the skill sets that we had done from Poopery and Squatty Potty, Purple Mattress, and built these global brands, and how to take the crowdfunding we had learned about while we've been fighting the Disney lawsuit, and how to use those in a new way to bring together the funding to build a big TV series, the first season, how to get that funding. And it was like the entire thing just flooded in. And I remember it was like a 2-hour period where it's just flooding into my mind. And I called Matthew Ferracci and I said, Matthew, tell me this director, Dallas Jenkins, has an idea for a TV series. Can you make a TV series? And he said, well, this is why I sent it to you, is because he has an idea for a TV series. And what I didn't know is Dallas had been out pitching this concept to the studios, and everybody had been telling him no, like right at the exact same time. And so he had sent this little pilot episode to Matthew, and I showed it to my brother Neil and said, Neil, I think we found what we're going to use as our flagship series for Angel Studios. At the time it was called VidAngel, but Angel Studios. And Neil said, what is it? And I said, well, it's a Bible series. And Neil's like, no, we're not doing a Bible series. Bible series are for churches to do. Yeah, like this isn't what I said, just watch it. And he watched it, and he takes off his earphones afterwards, and he says, thinking about that statement he made to me way back at the beginning, where he said, if we build this, we'll accumulate the right people. And he said, this is why we made Angel Studios. Mm. And from there, I was like, I don't know, like, if Dallas will even go for this, because I haven't spoken to him yet. We're going to talk to him in a couple hours. And I was like, there's five big problems here. Number one is Dallas doesn't like the skipping and muting concept. He doesn't like this idea of skipping and muting stuff. Now, we sold him on it, but at the time he didn't like it. He's a Hollywood director. Number two, we're being sued by the biggest studio in the world, Walt Disney Company, 20th Century Fox, and Warner Brothers are all suing us and trying to destroy us. So that's a big negative. And number three, we want to do crowdfunding. Dallas doesn't like crowdfunding. Number four, we're members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or known as Mormons. And he's a Baptist. And not only is he a Baptist, he is the son of Jerry B. Jenkins, who wrote the Left Behind series. Like, this is like Baptist or evangelical royalty, you know? and we're historically Latter-day Saints and Baptists aren't exactly aligned, and work together often. Number 5 is we were just about to file, as a defensive move inside of this legal battle, a Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing to counter Disney and pull the lawsuit out of California and bring it to Utah, because it's a legal maneuver, but it looks really bad in the press.
Yeah.
And so we're about to file bankruptcy, and I was like, Neil, I don't know how we're ever going to get this guy on board. Get on the phone with Dallas, spend 2 hours with him, and at the end of it, he says, you know what, let's explore this. And I thought I was a good salesman, and I probably was. It probably took being a good salesman, and it took Dallas being at the lowest point of his career, because he had just bombed a couple months earlier with the resurrection of Gavin Stone, and his entire career was like falling apart because this movie is at the lowest point of his career. So we're at the lowest point of our company. He's at the lowest point of our career. And then Dallas comes out. I meet with him. We meet with him and Amanda, his wife. And then we go to church together, and we just said, look, you got to go in this with eyes wide open. We're not going to pretend like we have the same doctrines, or, that we both believe in the New Testament. We both believe in this, and we're never, ever going to tell you how to make this movie. Like, we're just going to get it to the world. Matthew Fracci, the guy who introduced us, this Orthodox Jew, he says all the time, he says, if you've loved The Chosen, you can thank Dallas Jenkins. If you know about The Chosen, you can thank Angel Studios. So our job is to get it to the world. Dallas's job is to make it. And he and Amanda courageously took all those 5 things, and we pitched them on the idea. We want to make this original series for Angel Studios, our flagship series. And they said, let's do it. That's a miraculous thing in and of itself. And then we started the fundraising process, and it was brutal, just absolutely brutal. And it wasn't like when we funded the lawsuit with Disney, it wasn't 5 days for $11 million. It was 18 months of grueling, crawling on glass, trying to get this series funded. It was just a whole different beast. And Dallas, and he just pushed and pushed, and we pushed. And it was this, just to be clear, we had to make it a separate company. The Chosen, we felt like we should make it a separate company. And the reason for that is we were filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy. If Disney won this lawsuit, we were worried that they might take The Chosen and kill it. And so the first thing we thought is Angel Studios will fund this. And then we thought, no, we better not, because that would put it in Disney's hands, the asset. Then we thought, okay, well, Neil and I, our 2 brothers, we'll go fund it. And then we talked to attorneys, and they said, Disney's threatening to sue you personally. Maybe there's a small chance that they could get to the show through that. So we decided we're not going to fund it. Angel will create a separate company. Dallas will own that company. I went and got some friends. This was like 6 weeks later. And Matthew Fracci came in. He helped with it, and he got in. Those friends came in, and we had a separate company made that has a license with Angel Studios to try to keep them separate. So when I'm talking about fundraising, specifically for the SEC people that could potentially be watching, 2 separate companies, we're helping The Chosen raise money, not raising money for them.
For them, sure.
Even though we're operating as one team. And we threw the entire company at this project, and we bet the company on it. We bet the farm. And we build this crowdfunding campaign. We get just enough money to make season 1, episodes 1 through 4. And then as we launch those launch, filmed them in the freezing cold in Texas. And I remember being on set, and I was cold, and like Shahar is walking around in sandals and in the water doing the boat scene. It was so cold. But so we filmed episodes 1 through 4. I didn't film them. I was on set some, but then we go and we launch episodes 1 through 4, and then it's not working. people are not watching the show. And we're trying to figure out, we're building technology where you could buy copies of the first 4 episodes and you could send them to friends, and it's not working. And they would send them out to their friends, and you'd send 100 copies to all their friends, and then you'd get like 3 people to watch. And then and so I sent them to my friends. I could tell nobody was watching this. So I finally was just like, the only way, like, I'm going to call friends and say, come over for Sunday dinner. So we'd make Sunday dinner, have them over. As soon as we're done with Sunday dinner, we're like, we're going to watch 3 episodes of this TV series. And they'd be like, no, we don't have to. And I'd be like, no, you're sitting down and you're watching these episodes because I spent the last 2 years of my life working on this and devoting every bit of energy I have to this series. And you're going to watch it. And while this is happening, we get a ruling against us in court, like we're pirates. Meaning we had built a system where they pay for the content, we're making the studios money, skipping and muting, but the judge in LA rules against us for $62.5 million, bigger than any pirate ruling in history. It's like the largest ruling in history. And so Chosen's not working. We just got this ruling against us. It is so huge that I just walked out of that courtroom just thinking, 4 years, millions of dollars, we're done.
That's it. Yeah.
And I was thinking it's great that we made the Chosen separate company because it can continue on, but we're going to be done. And I went home, went back to the hotel room with my wife, Aniele, my wife. I laid on her lap and just wept. And I was just like, it's over. And she said, Jeff, our God is bigger than corrupt judges. And I wrote down in my journal at that time, I don't really believe it, but because I had another experience where I felt that just this belief that God would save Angel Studios. I had asked my brother to pray over me. He prayed over me, and in the blessing, it was in this prayer, it was God will save Angel Studios. And I wrote down in my journal, I don't believe it, but I'll work like it's true. Because it just seemed insurmountable. And in Disney, I mean, they went straight to the court and said, you got to put them in Chapter 7, put them out of business, liquidate their assets, get rid of these guys. And we made some legal maneuvers, got in a trustee. Trustee came in, and they take over your company, and they decide if you're going to go liquidate your company or what's going to happen. And the trustee comes in and he says, I'm going to figure out who the bad actor is. You and Disney's stories don't line up. And either you're the bad actor or they are. And then I'm going to shove it down whoever's throat is the bad actor. And episodes 1 through 4, The Chosen, have sold about $750,000. And it's cost about $700,000 something to actually sell those. So it's not working. And Dallas, we've just got enough money, barely, to finish making season 1. And so Dallas is on set filming, and we have a trustee in place. And the trustee says, when episodes 5 through 8 of The Chosen launch, you need to make $1.5 million in revenues before the 31st of December, or else that's it for your company. And Dallas was scheduled to release episodes 5 through 8 on Thanksgiving Day. So $750,000 the entire year.
Yeah.
And you just have this little moment to bring in 1.5 million, or else your company's dead.
You're done. Yeah.
Yeah, you're done. And I just kept, what I was doing is every single weekend I was bringing friends over, having Sunday dinner, and showing them the show. And then every time they'd be like, I love this show. But nobody could get anybody to watch the show. It was like pulling teeth. And members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints would say, you let a Baptist make all the decisions on this? I don't think this show's for me. And then evangelicals are saying, oh, Mormons are involved, so we don't want to watch. And that still comes up sometimes, is that both sides have some issues here, and there shouldn't be. But as we're doing this, and I'm meeting with some of my friends I brought in to help fund The Chosen, to be on that initial team of the Chosen team that bought the show, that bought the Shepherd, the pilot. One of them, Daryl Eves, he told me, he said, he pointed out that, and several people pointed this out, every single time somebody came on the Facebook group and said, I would love to watch this show. It would be in ads too. Like, you're running an ad for the show. I'd love to watch this show, but I can't afford it. Somebody would come in and say, send me your email address, I'll buy it for you. And they would connect. And this percolated for months. And then in the middle of the summer, this aha moment came for a group of us where we're like, if we could just connect the people who want to pay for the show to the people who want to watch the show, we could create this pay it forward program, and maybe that would work. And we pitched the idea to Dallas and Amanda. Amanda immediately jumped on. Dallas said, I need to finish the film. We'll talk in November. And so we just said, we have to charge forward. We're just going to build this system, and hopefully Dallas gets on board with this idea. And we built it, launched it on Thanksgiving, and on December 31st, we had over $1.5 million, just over.
That's incredible.
Like, it's miraculous. And then it continues to grow. Yeah. And the pandemic hits. Disney starts losing $25 to $50 million a day because their parks are shut down. All the theaters are shut down. People start watching The Chosen like crazy because they're sick of all the stuff on Amazon and Netflix, all this dark stuff. They wanted happy stuff during the pandemic. And it's just growing and growing and growing. And then our trustee calls us and says, I figured out Disney's the bad actor. And then he said, I'm filing a reorganization plan for your company where you pay off the entire fine of this judgment. And so he files with the courts, and then Disney says, we don't want to be paid back. And the judge says, well, why wouldn't you want to be paid back? That's the whole entire point. You must be a predator. And then the whole thing starts changing in our direction. And then Disney, and then we file an appeal to the appeals court. And then Disney comes in and says, we'll just settle. Don't touch our stuff. Don't appeal it. If you don't do this with our stuff. So we settle the case with Disney, which is a miracle in and of itself. We get out of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The Chosen is exploding. We have, we sell off VidAngel, and we changed the name of the company to Angel Studios. And then we get into original content. And then after The Chosen explodes, and there's all kinds of miracles that are, just around The Chosen. There's so many miracles in and of themselves around that company. And then we go and we do a Christmas series in theaters, a Christmas show, which I was very skeptical of. And then we do a couple theatrical releases with The Chosen. And while we're doing those, we got the data we needed to understand the theatrical model. And then we go and we make His Only, we take on, it was really interesting. There's a filmmaker, David Helling, who's directed His Only Son, which came out a year ago at Easter and took number 3 in the box office. That was our first movie. In our building, we have this giant framed picture of the sermon of the feeding of the Sermon on the Mount, filming for The Chosen. And you have several thousand people in this picture, and David Helling comes in and he points up in the corner of the picture and he says, see that little dot clear at the back? He's like, that was me. And I was hoping that I would find a place for my show, His Only Son. And So out of that is birthed this next movie, His Only Son, which is number 3 in the box office. And the last month has been in the top 10 on Amazon Prime. This movie is phenomenal. It's one of the best Easter movies you'll ever see, His Only Son. And you can also watch it in the Angel app. And so we do that one. And then right after that, we felt like we got in contact with the guys who did Sound of Freedom. And they were looking for a way. Jim Caviezel came into our office. He's pitching us on this Sound of Freedom. And he stops in the middle of our meeting. He says, guys, I can't even explain it. My heart is leaping out of my chest. You are the studio that's supposed to take Sound of Freedom. Jim Caviezel. This is before any of the producers or anybody's agreed. We just met him for a couple hours. And we get a deal with Sound of Freedom. We do a deal, and then we're planning to launch in, well, I've talked a lot. Do you have any questions about?
No, I'm fascinated. Joe and I are sitting, our producer Joe and I are sitting here, and we're like, this is incredible. So I want you to keep going because the backstory is fascinating. And I think we'll get to Cabrini because then, you know, this whole, the way that this whole tapestry has been woven together is fascinating. So I'm saving my questions. I want you to keep pulling on this thread so that we can kind of stitch it together, because I think it's going to bring us right to the threshold of what's about to be released.
Awesome. Okay. So we get Sound of Freedom, we get a deal, and we're picking a date, and we're like, you know, September is a really low date for theatrical releases. We don't have to compete with the big studios. Let's go in September 15th or 16th or something. And we are picking that date, and then 2 or 3 different employees and Neil, the CEO, have these impressions in the middle of the night, right out the gate. This movie's supposed to go sooner. And it was this, Neil came and he's like, guys, I don't normally want to make business decisions, especially this big of a decision based on spiritual impressions. But let's explore this. Let's explore going earlier. And so we were looking at dates, and we looked at July 4th, and everybody, including me, I said, guys, July 4th is like the biggest movie day of the year. It's not.
What are we doing?
Yeah. Christmas is number 2 to July 4th. Easter's number 3 to July 4th, right? This is not like we could die. And I talked to a previous executive at Disney who had been consulting with us on the project, said, we're thinking about July 4th. And he says, you do not go on July 4th. You will die. Like all the studios have contracts for theaters. How do you, like, you can't go there, and you're late in the game, and you're only like 90 days away from July 4th. And everybody's already got it slated for a year. And we just kept feeling this way. And I said, well, I think we're going to go with July 4th. And he said, well, then I'm not helping on the project because I don't work on failed projects.
Wow.
And so we move on July 4th, and everything moves out of the way. Like, we get a phone. We first call Cinemark, and Cinemark says, we have a spot in a month to come in and visit with us, screen the movie. And I told our assistant who was trying to get the meeting, I said, can you ask him for tomorrow? And Neil was there, and they turn around and they say, okay, well, you can come out tomorrow. So we go out, we meet with them. They say we're on board for July 4th. And then each studio just falls. AMC, Regal, they all say yes. They give us enough theaters. Then we sell out those theaters. Then we move to get more theaters, and then we get more. And then Elemental crashes in the box office, which means they don't have screens anymore. Then Indiana Jones crashes, then The Flash crashes, etc. These are all crashing, and everything is falling apart right before Sound of Freedom. So we're getting the screens while they're losing screens. And it's a miracle. Like, the way that God wanted this show to get to the world. And we had all the skills that we needed, plus his help, to be able to get this done. And everybody worked super hard. then we did After Death, a Halloween movie about people who have died and then came back, a documentary movie. And then we did the Shift in December, and now we're doing Cabrini. And Cabrini, I think, represents kind of the coming of age of this studio, of Angel Studios. When you watch it, it is a next level movie of mastery. And Alejandro is this is his fourth movie, and everybody who watches this is going to know Alejandro is a master, and Gorka, his cinematographer, they're masters. And this movie has everything relevant to right now. This is covering immigration in a good way. It's covering helping orphans, which, interesting enough, we have a movie coming out on July 4th of this year about adoption. And it's a follow-up to Sound of Freedom, and I think it's going to be a big movie. And then it's covering charity. Like, Cabrini built one of the largest charitable organizations the world had ever seen. It was equal to anything the Vanderbilts had built or the Rockefellers. And she's just this little Italian immigrant who's given a few years to live, and she's so stubborn and just goes in and solves problems. And she's going up against the Pope. She goes up against the mayor of New York, who's trying to stop her from building orphanages in the areas that she wants to build them. She's going up against pimps. Like, the movie is riveting and so beautiful, and it's like a motion. You saw it. It's like a motion painting.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say, is that it's not, I think, Alejandro, I'm with you. When I watched what he did and then got to talk to him about Sound of Freedom and heard the way that he used light and the way that he used the score, I was listening to him, and I remember listening. He was like sitting at the beach when we were talking, and he was, I think, having champagne and orange juice or something. Just a great, accessible guy, so fun.
Yep, he's a surfer.
But yeah, as you listen to him, though, he was a master artist and storyteller. And you saw that with the way that he orchestrated Sound of Freedom. When I watched Cabrini, it was a painting. It was literally like watching one of the old masters painting their painting. Yes. And I wasn't surprised because I've seen his other work and got to hear from him. But it was beautiful. It's a step up. I'm with you. The scene where there's a train crossing a bridge, and it literally, like, if you could pause that, it is the depth and the color and the sequence of events that's taking place. Here's what I'm curious about. It's, first, if you're watching this episode, like, we can't wait to release this, and we've rented out a theater. I think we bought a bunch of seats here in Tampa, so we're hosting an event here in Tampa to get people to see it, and you're going to be stunned. So when you see it, wherever you see it, go see it, because it's a masterpiece. What I'm fascinated from your chair is, how do you bring together that level of talent? And, we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, just the tension between the business side and then counting the cost and saying there's things we can't compromise on to make that kind of film in that way. Do you all just sit at the table together and say, these things we won't compromise on? We're going to shoot like this. We're going to use this person for the score. Like, for this project, what were some of those things that had to happen to bring it at that level? Because it really is a masterpiece.
What they explained to me is that Alejandro and Gorka and Rod took the script, and then they built a Bible. They built this Bible where, a shot Bible, where they had every single shot figured out in advance. And then, because they didn't have a huge budget, this looks like a $150 million movie, but it's not. And so they went in and they made every single scene match exactly what was in their shot guide. And that's all they got. They didn't go get coverage. Normally you get like a shot from this angle, and then you get a shot from that angle, and you do all these different like backups and fail safes. They planned this thing so well to keep it under budget that they had every single shot figured out, choreographed, and like an operatic is the way that Alejandro describes it, is like an operatic
Mm-hmm.
movement for the whole
Mm-hmm.
entire film. And so they they just didn't get the coverage because they didn't have the budget to do it, but they made sure that they got the perfect shots on the first, on that one angle that they had planned. So that like it's a rigor that I don't even know how. Like I've helped direct little 2 to 4 minute commercials, and my brain has a hard time keeping track of everything going on inside that commercial. And for Alejandro to have that in his head at a good enough pacing to be able to pull together an entire movie without getting coverage, it's just it's insane. It's next level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the score combines with it. There's a moment in the film where Cabrini goes down into the sewer, and I won't give it away, but there's this moment that's just heart wrenching where she enters the sewer to recover. It's just, you'll see it when you see it. You'll know what I'm talking about. But she goes into the sewer, and the lighting, the score, the facial expressions. How did you find Cabrini? I don't know that there's magic there, but whoever this is that you found to play Cabrini, how did you make that connection? Because literally the story is told in the most beautiful, subtle little
Mm-hmm.
ways with facial expressions. It's absolutely incredible.
How the actress for Cabrini is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Or I know
Yeah.
they looked through hundreds of people. That's not one I don't think I'm qualified to answer. Alejandro said that he called back Christiana, I think it was 5 times, until her agent said no more callbacks, because he just wanted to get her. It was so important for him to get her character right, and he found the perfect actress. Like the way Christiana, when
Yeah.
she's standing in front of the Pope, this little tiny lady, or standing in front of the mayor of New York, you can see both fear and courage in her eyes at the exact same time.
Yep.
Like you see this like tremendous fear throughout her facial expression, but just like dominating courage. And
Yeah.
and I don't even know how she pulls that off. She's got like so many emotions in one look that it's incredible. She critics are saying over and over again, like Christiana has an Oscar caliber performance in this movie. And I don't care about the Oscars. For me, Oscars are, I don't like chasing golden idols, but she probably does deserve an Oscar.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's incredible. I'm so grateful just for the time to get to do this and to get to hear a little bit of the backstory, just to hear what went into getting to this point. Because from all of us who are excited about good stories, and I was kind of ashamed to admit it, but I had not heard Cabrini's story.
Yeah, I hadn't
And
either.
I mean, literally, you walk into Chicago and the hospitals, you go into New York and the
They
work
all
she
have her
did
name on
there.
them.
Yeah. And you go, how has this story not been told? And then to you guys and the work that you're doing, how are these not the films that are being made? So we were so excited to get time with you,
And
celebrate
there's a lot more
Cabrini.
coming. Like you can go to angel.com/Cabrini and you can buy early tickets right now. There, like most of there is a huge chunk of cities where like the primetime showtimes on Friday night totally sold out. But you can
Yeah.
still get tickets around that time, or you can get, like, there's an early showing on Thursday night. You can get those. Um, but yeah, you can go to angel.com/Cabrini. And then also you can, what's coming, the slate, we have 6 movies this year. This is the first of 6. We've got Sight, which is the true story of a surgeon who escaped China, immigrant story as well, escaped China, became a world famous surgeon who cured blindness in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people around the world. And that story is phenomenal. That's coming on Memorial Day this year. Then on the 4th of July, there's a movie called Possum Trot. It's the true story of Possum Trot, Texas, where this little church in Texas, a little all black church, adopts the 22 families in this church adopted 77 foster kids. And I consider this the follow-up to Sound of Freedom, because the 90% of kids that are in child sex trafficking in the United States have spent time in child protective services. So this is like around the heart of the problem that Sound of Freedom made people aware of. And then there's a movie called Bonhoeffer coming out. It's a World War II movie about a pastor in Germany who fought back against Hitler. And then there's another one called Homestead, which is an end of the year apocalypse film. It'll be coming out at Christmas. And it's Homestead is like, if you prepared for the end of the world and then it came, what do you do if your neighbors don't have food and you have food? Or what do you do if the city comes and asks you for what you have? You know, that kind of like how to deal with those moral. Anyway, lots of stuff coming.
Yeah. Well, we're excited. We're grateful for Angel Studios. I'm glad that you have had the courage and the wind at your back to lean into some of that headwind and crash through it, and now find the other side to be able to pilot and greenlight projects like Cabrini and everything that's coming up. I can't wait to see the Bonhoeffer movie. We'll have to come back and have a second conversation.
Yes, yeah, it's an incredible story. And just to be clear, like I feel like the miracles around what has happened around The Chosen, around Angel Studios and Sound of Freedom are so significant because it doesn't even allow us to take credit for what's happening here. This
That's
is awesome. They're two, like you have to give credit to divine providence. It's not just our skill sets, it's divine providence, and at least up until this point.
Yeah. Well, there's probably nothing left to be said other than that, but I think great art, great artists, and companies like yours that are stewarding things with a humble recognition that divine providence is at work. And if we keep following rather than leading and trying to get ahead of it, really beautiful and impactful things will happen. So Jeff, thank you so much for the work you're doing. Just courage keeps coming up in my mind through the conversation, but so many of us are excited. Where are you going to watch the premiere? Where are you going to be on Friday, March 8th? This premieres. Where are you going to be watching?
My 8-year-old daughter and my 12-year-old daughters and my 8, my 10, and my 12-year-old daughters and their friends, and we're doing daddy-daughter time, and so I'm a girl dad.
Yes.
And I let my 10-year-old screen it in advance, and she says it's her favorite movie of all time. And this is the kind of movie, this is what I want my girls to learn, is that no matter how small you think you are, you can change the world. Yeah. And so she asked specifically if she could have so I went and bought a whole bunch of seats in a theater, and we're doing all her girlfriends are coming and we're watching it together.
Yeah. No better place to do it. Jeff, I screened it at home, my wife and I've got 3 daughters, and my oldest is 17. They go down from that. And I was feeling the same way as a dad of daughters, just so grateful that they could watch this little 5-foot Cabrini take on the world and leave a mark and do it with such courage. So Jeff, thank you for your work. Thanks for Angel Studios celebrating Cabrini. We'll get the links and all of those things. We've got tickets here in Tampa, but go be a part of this and participate in that Pay It Forward. You heard Jeff talk about it, but there's so many ways to make sure that people have access to go see a piece of work like this. So Jeff, congratulations. We're cheering you on.
Thank you.